Hello, everybody. I'm Bart Massey. Welcome once again to Introductory Programming in Python. I want to talk to you today about a topic that normally doesn't get covered in intro or maybe sometimes in any class you take during your computer science career. I want to talk to you about the ergonomics of programming and how you avoid hurting yourself in the short and long term. I think it's an important topic and worth a full discussion, so I hope everybody's on board for that. I hope you're staying safe and well out there during these difficult times. Let's go ahead and dive in. So, first of all, programming is an activity like exercise or like reading or like anything else. When a thing's an activity, there are better and worse ways to perform that activity. And what we know is that activities that seem pretty safe, programming a computer being one of them, can sometimes be really quite dangerous. And what we want to do is talk with you a little bit about, I've been doing this for a long time. I know a lot of people have been doing it for a long time. And when you start any new activity, one of the things you should do is check it out with people who've been doing it for a long time and know what's up with it. I think it's super important that you think about this stuff at the beginning. So we're going to go through a whole bunch of things, but the first thing we're going to talk about is how to set up a room. And we're going to really have two goals. I mentioned one already, safety. I want you to be in a situation where you don't hurt your health in the short or long term, but also in such a way that you're productive, that you actually spend time in the room producing what you want to produce in an effective fashion. Productivity is one of those fuzzy words, but I think we can sort of know it when we see it to a certain extent. So I'm going to talk about lighting plan for the room. I'm going to talk about the temperature of the room and how you want to work on that. I'm going to talk about maintaining quiet in the room and dealing with clutter in the room, because all four of those things have impacts on either your safety or your productivity. So let's start with room lighting, which is super neglected. It's pretty common in programming practice to just take whatever lighting is given. And when people do make lighting decisions, a lot of times they're weird lighting decisions. Programmers have these opinions, and that's one of the things they're known for. Those opinions aren't always based in science. The idea here is to be able to not strain your vision and be able to see comfortably what you're doing. And part of that is about monitor setup, which I'll talk later. Part of it is about just plain old lighting. So first of all, you really want adequate light. Don't think that a dark room is a better room for programming. It turns out that the contrast between a bright monitor and a dark room is really hard on the eyes and can cause visual problems. It also can make it harder to see what's going on. So you really would like a lot of light, and you'd like a lot of warm light. You really don't, you really want the reds and, more daylight, more natural colors than artificial colors, because there again, the contrast with the monitor is going to cause you problems. Direct sunlight into the room, on the other hand, can be a problem because it's typically bright enough to wash out monitors and mess up your vision. You definitely don't want sunlight ever shining onto your monitor. If you're in that situation, you need to turn things around so that isn't happening. Ideally, monitors will be somewhat backlit. So when you're thinking about your room lighting, what you'd really like to have is a lit wall behind the monitor that gives you some natural light in the room that sort of helps blend with the monitor. Basically, the short version of it all is that eyes don't like large contrast between light and dark, and in the long run, that's what causes problems. So that's the first thing, is get your room lighting set up the way you need it. The next thing is room temperature. And again, this is usually super overlooked. Unless you're at extremes of discomfort, you won't notice. And if you're at extremes of discomfort, you may still not notice for a long time because of flow state. I'll talk later about psychological states. But our goal here is to work comfortably and work safely. It's absolutely common to work in a room that's too warm and to literally overheat yourself. It's hard to believe, but the fact is that the brain uses about as much energy during intense mental effort as your body does during intense physical exercise. You can get too hot, and it can affect your thinking, and it can affect your actually health. You really would like the temperature to be between about 68 and 72 degrees to taste. That would be the ideal range, and you should really try to figure out what you can do to adjust the room to that temperature. If it's impossible for what other reason, then you need to think about clothing and heaters if it's too cold, fans if it's too warm, to try to get the effective temperature near or into that range, because that's the range in which you're thinking about other things than the temperature, and it's the range in which your body isn't straining to accommodate temperature, which can be a problem. OSHA has issued the American Occupational Safety and Health Administration has issued mixed pronouncements on this over the years, but I can tell you from a bunch of firsthand experience that once the temperature in your room gets above 78 degrees, you're probably literally in a dangerous environment. I've seen temperature-dependent epilepsy triggered in that environment. I've seen people get severely dehydrated in that environment. I wouldn't recommend spending long times programming in hot rooms. I don't think it's actually safe, and I'll stop the class if it gets much above 78 if in an in-person class, and send everybody home. I'll go home myself because I just don't think it's safe to be there. One of the things that sometimes gets overemphasized is quiet, because honestly, most of you will be able to learn to operate in a slightly distracting environment, but really, why push it? Do anything you can to get the environment quiet and undistracting. Starts with the noise your computer makes, which is a surprisingly distracting noise, even though it's not, right in your face. One of the things I did is actually literally, a friend of mine did it, and I liked it so much I did it myself. I literally moved my desktop behind a wall from where I am, so there's cables coming through the wall in a pipe, and the only thing that's in the room where I actually program are my monitors and my keyboard and mouse. And so that's ideal. Obviously, not everybody can accomplish that. If you can't, at least get your desktop far away, get a quiet desktop. You can get desktops that have quiet fans. Use a laptop, which generally tend to be quieter, but if you put the laptop right next to you, it's going to be pretty loud too. So you really want to pay attention to the computer noise and think about what you can do to minimize it, because it really will make a difference. If there's other loud stuff in the room or around the room, you really need to get it out. In particular, if there are conversations going on in the room, those people need to leave, or you do. You need to find a way to be in a place where people aren't doing other things, no television, no radio, or whatever. I strongly suggest background music. You try it without background music. I understand that some people feel like it really helps them, and you should absolutely try it both ways. But my experience has been that at best, what happens with background music is that you'll attend to it every once in a while. And when you attend to it, you're not attending to what you're doing. So the more that you can, sort of limit distractions, the more likely you are to be able to sort of focus on what you're doing. So, that's a good productivity tip. You really want to clear the space around where you're working. I've done kind of a mediocre job of that in my space, so I can't really talk, but I do have a relatively clear area around my mouse and keyboard so that I can set things down there when I need to, so that I can use that as a workspace when I need to. And I do have a relatively clear area around my chair, my rolly chair, which means that I can move around on the floor without getting things in my way. And I think that's pretty important, honestly, to be able to, there again, not be distracted by the circumstances of your environment, not have clutter get in the way of you trying to do what you need to get done. When you actually set up the workplace itself for safety and productivity, there's several things I want you to think about. Monitor size and resolution, monitor brightness and contrast, and chair and desk ergonomics are all things that are going to make a big difference to your working situation. Big deal is monitor size and resolution. Look, y'all live in a golden age as far as I'm concerned. When I was a kid, literally a 20-inch monitor cost $5,000 back when $5,000 meant something. So, monitor sizes have changed over the years. You can get a screen reasonably cheaply now. And that's important because it turns out that your vision can be really damaged by squinting at small text for a long time. I'm wearing glasses. I didn't wear glasses when I was a kid. There's several reasons for that, one of which is a congenital disease, so I can't really blame it just on the computers. But what we find is that nearsightedness and eye strain and other stuff happens a lot in the programming profession, and you really don't want to set yourself up for that. And so what you really need to do is make sure you have a big monitor, as big as you can reasonably manage. You want to run it at big text. There's no point in having a giant monitor if you put tiny text on the screen. You'd like the resolution to be as high, again, as you can reasonably manage. You don't want jaggies and other artifacts. They're going to mess with your vision. OSHA, if you look at their standards, they suggest 20 to 40 inches away from the face, from the sort of a face to monitor distance of, roughly 2 feet. That's roughly what I have if you sit and measure with a ruler, and I think it's about right. And I'll move my head back when I need to get a wider view of my setup, and I'll move my head closer when I need to see something close. But basically in that 20 to 40 inch range is where it should be comfortable. If you do have contacts or glasses, you should be wearing them while you program, and you should be wearing ones whose focus is set for that close focus. Especially for glasses, it's sort of a big deal to think about focal length, and glasses that are effective for distance vision may not be so effective for 2 feet away. And so you really want to work with your ophthalmologist or optometrist to make sure the glasses you're using are appropriate for what you're doing. Again, eye strain, big deal. The monitor should be brighter in the room, but not too much brighter. It's really important to have good high contrast. One of the things you'll hear a lot of positive things about in the programming community is dark mode, the idea that somehow white text on a black background or light text on a dark background is a good idea. Unfortunately, the evidence from physiological studies and everything else, plus the way the typesetting works, plus a bunch of other things, mean that it turns out that in practice, black text on a white background is almost certainly the right thing for best eye safety. And, that's just how it is. If the white seems too bright to you, you can turn down the brightness of your monitor until it's not so bright, but it's going to be better readability. It's going to be better clarity. Another thing that these slides are doing that I don't like and have kept meaning to change is you'll notice they're gray on white. Watch out for gray on gray. Watch out for low contrast color schemes. They just aren't helpful and can really damage your vision in the long run as your eyes try to figure out what's going on here. Big one. Repetitive stress injury is a big deal in programming, and back injuries are a really big deal in programming. Both happen a lot. You really want to be safe. One of the secrets here is I've got this little diagram. Notice that everything here is a right angle. That isn't just because I'm bad at drawing diagrams, although we could have that argument. It's because it should be like that. Your shoulders, your arms should be able to go down at your shoulders. Your upper arms, your lower arm should be able to go straight out 90 degrees from that and be just above the desk. Your hips and legs should be right angles. There again, you should be sitting straight up, as straight as you can manage. This is all real. And that means that you're going to have to be able to adjust the height of your chair. It means you're going to have to be able to adjust the height of your desk or pick a desk of appropriate height. Because if you don't do those things, you're going to get uncomfortable. If you don't get your arm and wrist positioning right, you're going to get a kind of repetitive stress injury called carpal tunnel, where the insides of your wrists glom up a nerve there and you start to get tingly and uncomfortable, and that is a real problem. Ultimately, it may require surgery. So make sure your arms are a little above the keyboard when hanging naturally, and you'll be in a lot better shape to avoid carpal tunnel. If you're hunched over at all, your back muscles are going to be strained, and you're going to get a strain injury from that over time, and you eventually can mess up the muscles in your back really badly if you don't have good posture. So this sitting up posture is the one you want when you're working as a programmer. That's how you want it to be. And notice that the horizontal spacing is important as well. Your hands should fall right over the keyboard. You shouldn't have to reach, and you shouldn't have to switch back. So, you know, pay attention to how you've got things set up. I generally recommend a chair without arms, like shown here, because the arms just get in the way of setting up the posture right. It happens that my chair does have arms. I'm going to get rid of it here shortly, partly for that reason. Yeah, we don't want you to get hurt, and it's real possible to get hurt. I have friends who right now are dealing with tendonitis and carpal tunnel because of typing. I have friends who've had bad back problems. It's one of these things that, you know, it doesn't matter really. It isn't like all of a sudden overnight you'll notice something terrible happening if you get this stuff wrong, or something fantastic happening if you get it right. But you'll find that, you know, you're not going to get stuff done because you've sort of sabotaged yourself in the various ways I've described. And you'll find that over time, your bad ergonomics are going to hurt your health. You're going to end up with nearsightedness, repetitive stress injury, stuff that you could have avoided if you stayed safe. So really, really want you to be careful out there as you start to become a intense programmer. And I want you to get the habits set up right, just like I would if you were starting to lift weights, just like I would if you were starting to play the piano, just like I would if you were starting to do any new activity. So that's the goal here. Watch out for yourselves. Please stay safe and well in general out there during these difficult times. It was a pleasure to talk to you, and I hope to talk to you again soon. Take care.